The connection was established at 3 p.m. Madrid time through a secure video link that had taken weeks of coordination between humanitarian organizations, technology companies, and hospital administrators in Gaza. But what nobody expected was how deeply this virtual visit would affect not just the patients and doctors, but Ronaldo himself, who had been struggling with feelings of helplessness as he watched news reports about the ongoing crisis and felt like his usual charitable donations and public statements weren't enough to truly make a difference in the lives of people who were suffering thousands of miles away from his comfortable life in Spain. The idea had come from Dr. Amira Hassan, a pediatric surgeon at the largest hospital in Gaza, who had seen how her young patients' faces lit up whenever they saw Ronaldo on television or social media. And she had reached out through multiple channels, hoping against hope that maybe the world's most famous footballer might be willing to spend even a few minutes talking to children who had lost so much but needed something to believe in, something to give them hope during the darkest period of their young lives. Dr. Hassan had been working 18-hour days since the latest escalation began, treating injured children with limited medical supplies in overcrowded conditions that would challenge even the most experienced medical professionals. But what broke her heart more than the physical injuries was seeing the psychological trauma in her patients' eyes. The way they flinched at loud sounds, the way they asked for parents who weren't coming back, the way they seemed to have lost faith that anything good could happen in their world. When Ronaldo's team finally responded positively to her request, she could barely believe it and spent days preparing her young patients, telling them that a very special guest was going to visit them virtually, and watching as genuine smiles appeared on faces that had forgotten how to hope. The video call began with technical difficulties that frustrated everyone involved. But when Ronaldo's face finally appeared clearly on the large screen that had been set up in the hospital's children's ward, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. A 7-year-old boy named Omar, who hadn't spoken since losing his leg in a bombing, started crying and reaching toward the screen, while a 9-year-old girl named Layla, who had been refusing to eat for days, suddenly sat up in her bed and whispered his name like a prayer. Ronaldo had prepared for this call by learning basic Arabic phrases and researching each child's story so he could speak to them personally. And when he began by saying, "Assalamu alaikum, my brave friends," in perfect Arabic pronunciation, the entire ward erupted in gasps and tears, because these children who felt forgotten by the world were hearing their hero speak their language, acknowledge their existence, treat them not as victims or statistics, but as the amazing young people they were. He spent the next 2 hours talking individually with each child, asking about their dreams, their favorite subjects in school, their families, and their hopes for the future. And with each conversation, his own emotions became more visible as he realized that these weren't just patients or casualties, but incredibly resilient young people who, despite everything they had endured, still had dreams of becoming doctors, teachers, engineers, and yes, even footballers. Dr. Hassan translated when needed, but was amazed by how much Ronaldo had prepared, learning not just Arabic greetings, but also the names of each child's favorite cartoon characters, their siblings' names, and specific details about their injuries and treatment that showed he had studied their files with the dedication of a medical professional preparing for surgery. When 8-year-old Ahmed, who had been blinded in an attack, asked if Ronaldo thought he could still learn to play football despite not being able to see, Ronaldo's response left every adult in the room in tears as he said, "Ahmed, some of the most beautiful football in the world is played by people who cannot see. Because football isn't just about what your eyes can do. It's about what your heart can feel, and your heart is stronger than any player I've ever met." He then spent 20 minutes describing in detail how blind football is played, explaining the techniques and promising to send Ahmed a special ball with bells inside it, along with audio training materials created specifically for visually impaired players. The conversation with 10-year-old Noor, who had lost both parents but was determined to become a doctor like Dr. Hassan so she could help other children, was equally powerful as Ronaldo promised not only to support her education, but to personally ensure that she had everything she needed to pursue her dream, including connecting her with medical schools in Europe that could provide the advanced training she would need. Dr. Hassan watched in amazement as Ronaldo spoke to each child with the patience and attention of a grandfather, talking to beloved grandchildren, never rushing, never seeming distracted, never treating any question as unimportant, no matter how simple or complex. When 12-year-old Youssef asked why bad things happen to good people, Ronaldo paused for a long moment before answering honestly that he didn't have all the answers, but that he believed every person had the power to create light in dark places, and that Youssef had already done that by being kind to the younger children in the ward and by continuing to smile even when he was scared. The most powerful moment came when the children sang a song they had learned in Arabic and Spanish, thanking Ronaldo for remembering them, and as their small voices filled the ward singing words of gratitude and hope despite everything they had endured, Ronaldo broke down completely. Unable to maintain the composure he had tried so hard to preserve throughout the call. Dr. Hassan had to take over temporarily, explaining to the children that Ronaldo was crying because he was happy to meet them and because he cared about them so much, which only made them love him more. The technical team had planned for the call to last 1 hour, but Ronaldo insisted on staying connected for 3. And when it finally ended, he immediately called his foundation and authorized emergency funding for new medical equipment for the hospital, specifically requesting that it be delivered within weeks, not months, because he said every day mattered when children's lives were at stake. But the impact of the call extended far beyond that single afternoon, because Dr. Hassan had recorded portions of it with Ronaldo's permission, and when she shared clips on social media showing these children's faces light up as they talked to their hero, the response was overwhelming. Donations poured in from around the world, not just money but medical supplies, volunteer offers from healthcare professionals, and most importantly, messages of support and love from people who had been moved by seeing the resilience and hope of these young patients. The video of Omar, the boy who hadn't spoken since his injury, calling out Ronaldo's name became one of the most shared clips in social media history. Not because it was sensational, but because it showed the pure power of human connection and how sometimes the simplest act of recognition and care can help healing begin in ways that medicine alone cannot achieve. Ronaldo established a permanent fund to support the hospital and specifically requested regular updates on each child he had met, insisting that this wasn't a one-time publicity event, but the beginning of a long-term relationship. 3 months later, when Omar took his first steps on a new prosthetic leg, the video call he made to Ronaldo showing his progress brought tears to the eyes of millions who had followed his story. And when Layla started eating regularly again and began drawing pictures of footballers, the hope in her artwork became a symbol of recovery that inspired healthcare workers around the world. The program expanded to include virtual visits to hospitals in other conflict zones and areas affected by natural disasters. But the Gaza visit remained special to Ronaldo because it had shown him that sometimes the most important thing you can offer isn't money or resources, but simply your presence, your attention, and your willingness to see people as individuals rather than statistics. Dr. Hassan later wrote that the call had transformed not just her patients, but her entire medical team, because it had reminded them that healing involves more than treating physical injuries. It requires restoring hope and dignity and helping people remember that they are valued, loved, and not forgotten by the world. And when Ronaldo won his next major championship, his first act was to hold up a banner with the names of all the children he had met virtually, dedicating his victory to them and promising that as long as he had a platform, he would continue to use it to shine light on the stories of people who needed the world to remember that every life matters, every dream deserves support, and every child, regardless of where they are born or what circumstances they face, deserves to know that there are people who care about their future. The banner became an iconic image, not just in sports, but in humanitarian work, representing the idea that true champions are measured not just by their victories on the field, but by their willingness to stand with those who need support and to use their success as a bridge connecting privileged audiences with people whose stories need to be heard, understood, and acted upon with both urgency and lasting commitment.